Hi, and welcome to episode 19 of my series about the Pyara region, a fakemon region inspired by Pakistan. We've completed the Pyara Dex and outlined the region's battle gimmick, so now it's finally time to delve into the Pyara region's human cast. We're kicking things off with the characters that keep you company on your journey, the rivals/friends. If you watched the previous videos in this series, and if you haven't you should, they're good, you'd have seen these characters already, but now I'm introducing them formally. I'll also be showing off a few Starise forms. If you don't know what a Starise form is, I go into more detail about the Pyara region's battle gimmick in my big battle gimmick video. Go check it out if you haven't already, it's a banger. I'll wait, it's not like I'm going anywhere. Before we get into the characters, I thought it might be fun to explore the roles that rival characters play in the Pokémon experience, and briefly explore the history of rival characters so far. So what does a good rival do for a Pokémon game? Well, there's the obvious gameplay functions of checking that the player understands the fundamentals of battling, but I also think a good rival can help ground the player in the game. Since the average NPC trainer is very easy to beat, having a peer on roughly the same level as a player can help them feel like a part of the world, rather than apart from and above the world. Having a rival also gives the player something personal to work towards. Catching them all and taking on the Pokémon League is fun and all, but a rival provides a direct relationship with the player to motivate him to get better at the game. Like look, this person wants to beat you personally. You should figure out the game's mechanics to show them what's what. In newer games, rival characters also serve important narrative roles. Since a player character is intended to be a blank slate for the player, they can't have too complex a character arc, so the rival character often takes a lion's share of development, with the rival's growth reflecting the player's growth. I think Gen 1's Blue, or Gary, or Bumface, or whatever you decided to call him, hits all three of those points really well. He's cocky and rude, sure, and he has a habit of ambushing you when you least expect it, but he's never mean, and a lot of the time he encourages the player and gives advice. He's just smug enough that it's satisfying to beat him, but he's so hilariously unflappable that you never get the satisfaction of properly taking him down a peg, motivating you to beat him decisively once and for all. He doesn't really have a character arc, but he didn't really need one. His job was to encourage you to keep moving forward in this first outing, and he did it brilliantly. Gen 2 marks the first time a rival character got to grow and change throughout your journey, and the first time a rival was fully antagonistic rather than playfully rude. The only time for a good long while. Silver's arc is pretty straightforward, but it's really satisfying to see him progress as a character as you hone your skills as a trainer, reinforcing the themes at the heart of the game and directly tying them to your personal journey. Great stuff. Gen 3's rival was the first not to receive a unique design. Rather, they just used whatever character mold you didn't pick. I think these guys mark a shift towards friendlier rival characters, lacking the arrogance and bite of Blue or Silver. They're also less driven to battle you, focusing as they are on helping their dad, Professor Birch. Brendan and May play a far smaller role in your journey through the Hoenn region, presumably to make room for the big legendary A-plot, as this was the first generation to really put legendary Pokemon at the core of its story. I suppose Wally is also a rival, and his arc does tie directly into Gen 3's themes, but come on, you fight him twice and it's really easy both times. With Gen 4, I think Game Freak realised they could work the rival's arc into the legendary A-plot, which is what they did with Barry. He's another friendly rival, but he also has a distinct, memorable personality, and gets to have some compelling character growth as part of the main story. He's a very fun character, just as comically unflappable as Blue before him, which makes him an entertaining part of the Sinnoh experience, despite the fact that his fights are a little easy. Gen 5 had an ambitious story, with a lot of complex themes to explore, so it upped the number of rivals to better carry that narrative weight. Sharon and Bianca are your more typical rivals, representing the dual themes of ideals and truth respectively, while N is both a rival and a main antagonist, positioned as the direct opposite of the player in the game's finale. I really like these three, and their character journeys are a fantastic part of the journey through the Unova region. We also got Hugh in the sequel games. He's a pretty straightforward character, with his primary distinction being that he has serious, personal beef with Team Plasma. This does facilitate a pretty fun arc, and brings out new sides to the Team Plasma characters, but it also has a side effect of making your rivalry with him feel more like a secondary consideration. Not bad per se, just different. Gen 6 upped the number of rival characters from Gen 5, but missed out the part where each rival character gets a piece of the wider narrative to work with. Sorry, I know dunking on the Gen 6 rival characters isn't exactly uncharted territory, but they're just not very interesting. They don't really enhance your journey, or the themes of the piece, at all. There's too many of them and they don't get to do anything. Their designs are fun at least, but unfortunately they're underserved by the game's plot and don't get to reach their full narrative potential. Thankfully things get better in Gen 7, which reduces the number of rivals and gives them substantial roles in Alola's great story. Hao is a really fun rival, continuing the trend of friendly rivals but doing so in a way that facilitates plenty of compelling character development. He maintains an upbeat personality throughout, but you beating him throughout your journey actually factors into his arc, particularly in the Ultra games where he really gets to swing with his full weight narratively. Gladion is also technically a rival, but he exists much more to facilitate story stuff than to act as a proper capital R rival, which is totally fine. He serves a storytelling purpose and serves it well. Besides, Hao is more than enough on his own. There's also Lily, who isn't a rival at all, but is the driving force of the game's story, practically the main character of the base Alola games. She got kinda done dirty in the Ultra games, but even then she's a great character and a defining part of the Alola experience. Battles were a big part of Gen 8's story, so it upped the number of rivals to really hammer home that sense of competition, with each rival aiming for the top spot for different reasons, and I think it was largely successful. Hop is another great iteration on the friendly rival trend, getting to have a full development arc that's actually reflected in his team compositions throughout your fights with him. That rules! We also get Bede, who brings back the rude rival and cranks the rudeness to 11. Unlike Blue, Bede is actually mean and antagonistic, being the driving force for Hop's Crash Out arc, and it is very satisfying to take him down a peg, but also to see him get better. Then there's Marnie, who I'm a big fan of, but is also weirdly underserved in Gala's story. It's really odd because Team Yell and Spikemuth had a load of narrative potential from their backstory, as told in the league cards, but you never actually engage with their story in your journey. This means Marnie isn't nearly as significant in the plot as Hop and Bede, which sucks because they had great arcs. Let my girl Marnie grow as a character too. Finally, we have Gen 9. Paldea had 3 separate storylines that converge at the finale, so Scarlet and Violet have a companion character for each storyline. Nemona takes the traditional rival spot, with an interesting twist. She's actually a champion at the beginning of the game, and she's trying to train you up to be a trainer worthy of facing her. It's a very fun spin on the classic rival formula that makes your battles with Nemona feel more exciting, and makes the final showdown with her super climactic. Arven and Penny are brilliant too, even if the narrative roles are more straightforward. They have simple jobs that they do well, and they play in that simplicity to make room for some really effective character work. And of course the finale, where you get to interact with all 3 of them together, makes for a really effective conclusion to each of their arcs, and one of the strongest finales in a Pokemon game. For my first Fakemon region, Ormate, I thought I'd go the Gen 5 route, and have 2 rival characters to represent the dual themes of the region, tradition and modernity. Marion is running headfirst into the future, but doesn't take time to appreciate the present, while Corey is fixated on the past, but has trouble connecting to people in the here and now. In a hypothetical Ormate game, you'd help them grow as characters as you go on your journey together. For Pyara, I thought I'd take the Gen 9 approach and split the game's story into 3 big chunks, with a companion for each storyline. Each character also takes the core themes of love and unity in different directions, allowing this hypothetical game to have a more complex narrative. For the traditional Victory Road story, your rival is Adil. If you don't know who he is, you'll soon find out. He tells everyone who listens, and everyone who doesn't, that he's the younger brother of the Pyara region's champion. He's taking on the Pokemon League to prove himself to his famous older brother. He's very full of himself, and talks a big game, but kinda doesn't have much of an identity outside of being the champion's brother. But you'll help him figure out who he is as you journey through the Pyara region. Adil's ace is his starter Pokemon, Hismith, but he also gets the starter that you didn't pick with a type advantage over yours. This will be the Pokemon he eventually Starises, into Starise Maestrantis, Starise Caprapati, or Starise Calamati. You can find out more about these 3 in my Battle Gimmick video. Next up, for the Evil Team storyline, Operation Exodus, your companion is Noor. A mysterious character, Noor approaches you with a request. She's uncovered some information about the Exodus Corporation, colloquially called Team Exodus, getting up to some shady activity, and she needs a strong trainer to help put an end to their schemes. She'll explore the region with you as you head to each Team Exodus base, but she seems to be very down on herself for some reason. Maybe you can help her with her self-esteem issues as you journey through the Pyara region. Nora's partner Pokemon is Trickitty, and when it evolves into Paresto, she can Starise it into an all-new form. Introducing Starise Paresto. This form reinterprets Paresto's star-shaped tail as a magic broom, and gives its design a little magical girl flavour. Paresto's wish is for greater magical power, and after Starising it can channel this power through its tail to fly, or through its paws for powerful magical attacks. For the final storyline, Titan Quest, your companion is Kai. They have a real passion for the mysteries of the world, and they request your help as a strong trainer to help them uncover the secrets behind the enigmatic Titan Pokémon, as well as the legendary Pokémon spotted near each Titan. Kai is enthusiastic about their journey and knowledgeable about Pyara's ecosystems, legends, and Pokémon, but under the surface they harbour deep insecurities about their eccentricities. Maybe you can help them work through their issues as you encounter each Titan on your journey through the Pyara region. Kai's partner Pokémon is Put 'em Up, and when it evolves into Stick 'em Up, they can Starise it into a new form. Here we have Starise Stick 'em Up. Where regular Stick 'em Up uses slime as a weapon, Starise Stick 'em Up coats itself in its slime, forming a powerful suit of sticky armour that amplifies Stick 'em Up's offensive and defensive capabilities. Stick 'em Up's wish is for more slime. Weird wish, but I'm not judging. And this form allows Stick 'em Up to produce vast quantities of slime to ensnare its opponents. That's all for this episode. The question for today's episode is, what's your favourite rival or companion character? Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.
Bomb!